you, Sheila. Thank you.
Well, good afternoon. Hope you all have grabbed some wonderful lunch. Welcome. My name is Dr. Sheila Robinson. Welcome to Moving Forward, your leadership connection during these times. And I can add during these times of uncertainty. Because as many of us are now sheltered in place and we're socially isolated during the current COVID-19 health crisis, our routines have been disrupted. Our worlds have been turned upside down. And it only naturally feels, right, Dr. Melnick, that we're going to be fearful and stressed. We're fearful and stressed from the uncertainty and those of anyone out there like me, the loss of control. And in order to help us regain a sense of control and navigate a path forward, Diversity Woman Media is delighted to be launching a Zoom series every Thursday at 12 noon called Moving Forward to continue to be your leadership connection, even during these times. We're going to offer solutions and tools for increasing your resilience, and we want you to stay focused, productive, and positive, even at home, in our community, and with our company teams. So while it's wonderful that we can transition much of our work to virtual platforms, it can also be challenging, right, Dr. Melnick? And you're here to help us stay upbeat, to keep our teams optimistic, to help us remain being effective, and even more importantly, to demonstrate our value to our organizations, because our organizations need us even more now. So before I turn it over to Dr. Melnick, we want to do a little quick poll. First we will do we'll do something a little light. So I want to ask you, those of you whose schedule has allowed you to join us today, what is something you look forward to doing when we get on the other side of COVID-19? Working from your office instead of home? Because I've been told that, working from home isn't as easy as, we dreamed it to be. Going to a restaurant instead of getting takeout and cooking. Going to a movie theater instead of streaming movies. So let's see if we could get you all to respond to that. And also on a not so light side, to help Dr. Melnick understand, what the majority of you are joining us for. What are you most fearful of? The health and safety of you and your loved ones, job loss and or finances, the unknown and uncertainty of what will happen next. And I mean, all of those are enough to be fearful of, but I'm just an avid believer that our health and safety is priceless. And if we could, prevent ourselves from getting sick, that there's nothing that we can't all accomplish together. So let's see what we have here. And while we're waiting on the polls, I want to give Dr. Melnick a deserving introduction. I mean, we are so honored to have you here with us today. Dr. Sharon Melnick is a leading authority on stress resilience and women's leadership. Informed by 10 years of psychology research at Harvard Medical School, her methods have transformed medical schools. Her methods have transformed professionals at over 50 Fortune 500 companies. She is a sought-after speaker and trainer, so we're delighted she's joined us today. And her specialty and passion is increasing women's contributions to their organizations. And she's the author of Success Under Stress. I see the book cover behind you. Powerful Tools to Stay Calm, Confident, and Productive. So thank you very much for joining us today. Dr. Melnick, I'll turn it over to you.
Oh, Sheila, you're my role model. You're a connector. You are important to me and so many people in our lives. So I'm so grateful to connect and to be a part of your community here. Did you want to kind of take a look first at the poll results, and maybe we can understand together what people are really hungry for, and then let's share some skills.
All right, super.
Okay, did you want to go over it, or you want me to?
You go right ahead. I'm turning.
Okay, so I'm seeing here, most fearful of the health and safety of you and your loved ones, the unknown and the uncertainty of what will happen. Some people, job loss or finances, so that's good actually that not as many people. So let's definitely, and people are looking forward to going to a restaurant instead of taking or having to make it yourself, right? I think that's a collective wish. Okay, so just in terms of the health and safety of you and your loved ones, if that's the number one thing on people's minds, I think we can certainly understand that. And, we're not going to be speaking today, right, to kind of the medical aspects of that, but we are going to be speaking to what it is that you can control in order to take care of the health and safety of yourself and your loved ones. And actually, there is a lot that you can control in terms of the precautions that you take, right? Following kind of what we know is the best practices, keeping your own immune system healthy, right? And so these are, just sort of very basic practices. And I think we don't need to repeat those there because those are, kind of out there a lot. I think let's talk to the thing that was, kind of the second most endorsed, which is, the fear and the uncertainty and the stress and the anxiety. I know it's high on everyone's mind. So how about if we dig in with that?
Okay. All right. So yes, we need to know how to keep calm and know how to shift from fear to focus. So how do we do that, Dr.
Yeah, absolutely. So you know what I'm going to do, if you wouldn't mind, I'm actually going to make use of some visuals because, some people are visual learners and it can just help to help us remember some of the things that we'll talk about. So let me just kind of close out the poll here and let me share my screen, and maybe Sheila, if you can let me know if you could see my screen. I'm even gonna kind of enlarge it. Do you see the PowerPoint coming up here?
It's ready.
Okay, fantastic. So let's start with that, right? Let's just start with some of the basics around just how to deal with the stress and the uncertainty of the situation, and then we'll go even more specifically into those moments of fear and panic. Okay, so the first thing that I just want to say is, we only experience stress when there's aspects of the situation that feel out of our control. In fact, it is the out of controlness that activates a stress reaction, right? And so the more that we feel like we have a sense of control, the less that we will experience stress and anxiety in the situation. Now, in these days, there's such a, in what's going on in the macro context feels so out of our control. So I get that. But what I want to talk with you about is that there's actually so much that is within your control. Mm-hmm. So let me even share a diagram that's going to help us to appreciate this. So in any situation that you're facing, any of the challenging moments, I want you to immediately call to mind this diagram. And what it requires you to do is to kind of sort out what are the aspects of the situation that you can control. And I call this your 50%, right? And then distinguish that from the aspects of the situation that you can't control, kind of the other 50%, if you will, below the line. Now, all of the news and all of the concerns, it's like just pulling our attention below that 50% line, right? And what I want you to appreciate is that actually, when you focus on matters that you can't control, you will activate a stress reaction. And I mean that literally. And then, you'll have a feeling in your body of kind of adrenaline kind of going through your body, that, that kind of fear response, or the push, 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 kind of feeling. You'll activate a response in your psychology. You'll have, thoughts that are focusing on what you can't control. You'll start doing all of that negative forecasting into the future, right? You might feel a lot of pressure on you, and you're also going to be affected in terms of how you respond or what you do in terms of your performance in the moment. So anytime that you're focusing on things that you can't control, that's what literally activates stress and anxiety within us. And so important for us as women is that when you focus on aspects of a situation that you can't control, that other 50%, you leak your power.
Wow. Leaking your power. That's powerful right there.
Isn't that right?
Mm-hmm.
You leak your power. And so that's why it's so important is that I want all of us, as we go throughout the day, anytime we notice, that feeling of stress, I want you to immediately be sorting out, right? What can I control? What I can't? And you can even do what I call like a power analysis. Where's your power? What can I control in this situation, right? And so I want to start us off with some examples of things that we can control, and then let's have a discussion here in the community.
Okay.
Right? Because I think that this is such an important time for us as women. We can really I think that there's a receptivity now to new ways of doing things. Yes. I think that leadership is appreciating that there has to be in the culture connection with people and paying attention to how people are doing in ways that are, I think, even heightened than they had been before. And I think, women's ways of knowing, women's ways of connecting, women's ways of interrelating, women's ways of having foresight and vision, and women's vision of the future and how it needs to be in a way where it's based on empathy and connection and collaboration. This is the ways that we're going to be creating cultures going forward. So it's so important for each and every one of us to be in our power, right? And to use that power for good and to have it energize us and have it help us to be resilient with a kind of a go forward vision. So I just want to, set up the inspiration for us at the beginning that is the opportunity. And every time a woman stands in her power, she chips away at a patriarchal system that has gotten us to this point, and she helps to create the system going forward, right? So that's what we're here to kind of get some fundamentals of how to handle the anxieties and the stresses that we are facing and to see the opportunity in it for us. So starting with that foundation, right? How are we gonna handle the stress ourselves? So we're going to do that power analysis, right? What can I control? And actually, there's so many things that you can control that what I want to do is I want to give you a way of remembering that in the heat of the moment when there's like a lot of, fear going on. And so there's kind of a rule or a mantra that I want you to remember. And it's all about controlling what you can control and really focusing on your 50%, what you are bringing, how you are interacting in any situation. And I call this the 50% rule. And the 50% rule is be impeccable for your 50%. Now, it's so easy to focus these days on what leaders aren't doing or what the people around us are doing or not doing. And so start with the foundation is be impeccable for your 50%, meaning put your time and energy and attention into the things that you can control. Learn how to do that really well. And we're going to get started here, right, today. Learn how to do that really well. And I think that that's already going to start to help you feel, at least in your life or your household or your desk area or your part of relationships, that it's going to help to create more of a sense of control, even in the midst of a kind of an overall world that we aren't having control over these days. And
I'm so excited about this, Dr. Melnick. You are, for those of you on here, she's going to actually give us tips and tools that we can actually use to get there, because we love how you're getting us inspired and motivated. but we want to know you are going to give us some things that we can actually do.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely. On the way. But this is a mindset, and you can control your mindset, right? And every well, let me actually even get into a even more specific about this. So there's always, always, always 3 things that you can control. Okay, so this we already know kind of where to look. So the 3 things that you can control are, hold on a second here, you can control your own physiology, you can control your own psychology, you can control your own problem solving in any given moment. Okay, so I thought we would go through a little bit each of these, right? But I want you all to appreciate it, even when it seems like there's nothing that you can control, or even if you are worried about family members getting sick, or even if you have a family member who you are tending to, right now, or even if you can't control, sort of what's going on in your company, actually, even in situations that are hard, like you could adjust your own expectations, right? Or you could deal with your own feelings in order to kind of get yourself back into your power. So even when there's nothing that you can do kind of to make the situation different, you can still kind of make yourself, you can still show up as who you need to be, right? And I do think that, when it comes to thinking about like your physiology, we're going to go over some tools for that.
Okay.
Your psychology, let me start actually with some mindsets for resilience. Because I think, it all starts with that, because every belief, every mindset is a decision, right? Every time you believe something, it feels like, well, that's just, how it is about me, but actually it's a decision. It will influence every thought and every action and everything that you notice going forward. So let's start, right, with a mindset that I'm going to be impeccable for my 50%. Could we get some kind of feedback from those of you on the line? Like, are you like, yeah, that resonates for me? Like, could we even take a pledge? Like, could we commit to this?
Yeah. So basically, you're saying the decision. So we have a choice. It is our choice, and that's power. That you're helping us with power. That's giving us power right there, because we have the choice to have that decision with what we do with our mindset.
That's right.
Okay.
That's absolutely right. And that will influence everything. You know what I mean? How you feel, how you act, for sure.
All right. I see. Absolutely. Natasha says she's in.
We're in? Awesome. Awesome. So let's take that pledge, that you commit to being impeccable for your 50%, because think about the people that you know in your life who are your role models, who you think are resilient, right? And that's what I think about you, Sheila. And, think about those people and tell me, are those people who like model being impeccable for their 50%?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
Yes. I had a question. Someone is asking, so what about if you are 70-30 or 20-80? It may not be 50-50 all the time. You're going to help me there.
I love that question. Thank you. So here's the thing, is that it might feel like, oh my gosh, I only control 5% of my life right now. You know what I mean? But what I'm saying is that the reason I use that 50%, I know it's like a little abstract, but it's like in every moment, in every interaction, in everything that you do, there's what you bring to it. There's kind of, right? And that's your 50%. And then the other people, the world, you know what I mean? It's sort of doing their half. So that's what I'm saying, is really maximize on what it is that you can control. Now, for the perfectionists and the control freaks in the crowd, I got you. It takes one to know one. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying be a control freak, because that would be trying to control 100% of the pie. I'm saying that there's so much actually that we can control, even in the midst of, all the things that we can't. And we can't create the economy out there, but we can create the economy in here.
Okay.
right? And we, as a leader, we're going to talk more, about how to keep your teams optimistic and, and calm and in a motivated, productive state. And, just to start, as the leader, you create the weather on the team.
Okay, well, let's do it.
Right? So let's just get started with some mindset, then we'll get into some physiology tools about fear. So here are some things that can really help to shape your mindset. I got into a fear panic at the beginning when all this started, right? Like we were talking about this year, like, oh, are we gonna like lose our business and our ability to like bring, and help people in the world? We've all had these moments and we're continuing to have these moments. So I started to ask myself different questions, right? And the first question that I asked that really changed things for me, got me out of fear, was this question: how might this have happened for me, not to me?
Oh.
So how might this have happened for you, not to you? Right? So that's something for you all to think about, is like, what is the opportunity here for you? What have you been really wanting to develop in yourself, but maybe you were too busy or never had the sense of urgency or something, right, to develop? Or, what are the times calling for in terms of like, how does your family need you in these times, or your team, right? That you can really, because we're all bringing with us, sort of wherever we were at the moment this crisis started. And so how could you really use this as an opportunity to really motivate you, or give you the time or the bandwidth or the access, to develop something in yourself? And what is that? So I want you all to ask and answer that question. How might this have happened for you and not to you?
Okay.
So that's one question you can ask. Another question you could ask is that we're all caught up and we're all kind of in the emotion of it these days. And so I want you to try to shift out of that reactivity. And I want us all to try to be more intentional. So to be intentional, you might ask the question, who do I want to be as I go through this? Who do I want to be on the other side of this, right? And then like really kind of take a moment, for all of you who can get outside, right? And meditate on that on a walk, or do some journaling about that, or ask people in your life what your superpowers are, and really think about it. And then start to articulate that, and maybe even like come up with a phrase that kind of captures the essence of it. And then that's the purpose of your life, right? So not the kind of like, the big world that's kind of scary and that we can't control, but then make that your purpose, right? Show up as that person. Show up as that person who you want to be, who the people in your family or, community or team need you to be, because that you can control.
Okay.
That you can control. So can you see, Sheila, that these are just some examples, right, of ways that you can be thinking, thinking about yourself. These are mindsets for resilience.
I love it. Mm-hmm. So we will, I love how you are energizing us, and I love everything on your brain, and I want us to be mindful of the time. And I know that many people are on the calls, and you can present this any way that you want, but I know that many people on the calls, we want to make sure that some of these things are saying reduce distractions, create boundaries of space while working from home, step up to show your value and stay visible in a virtual workplace, keep yourself, your team, and your family members optimistic, and turn your head off at night so you can relax and sleep. And of course, you're already working on how do we keep our mind calm and know how to shift instantly from fear to focus. And Dr. Sharon, I could talk to you all evening, but I just want us to be mindful of time, and let's get into she is like, it is so hard to get her schedule is packed. So we want to make sure that we utilize this time we have together to get as many of these questions answered as possible.
Absolutely. So let me turn to kind of dealing with fear. Okay. Um, so I want to approach this from a few different angles. So the first thing is that, we're living, we've been living in a culture where, especially like the corporate culture, where all the emotion is like sucked out of us. Yes. It is like, not encouraged. And, especially us as women, and I mean, as humans, not just women, but, as humans, as women, we're emotional creatures. I mean, that's actually what gives us our passion and our inspiration. It's very discouraged. So a lot of us become like kind of disconnected from our feelings, right? And so then when we feel fear or grief or sadness or any of these kind of range of feelings, it can be kind of like overwhelming and very unfamiliar and uncomfortable, right? So the first thing is like, let's see again if we could use this as an opportunity to just kind of get comfortable, just feeling our feelings, right? And I think it's not just the feeling of them, but it's the vulnerability that I think that it makes us feel. And that we're very uncomfortable with.
Yeah.
And I do think that this is, one of the ways that with the emotional intelligence that we have as women is that, as we can get comfortable just with our own, full range, as a mentor of mine says, that every woman wants to play all 88 keys of her piano, right? And as we can get comfortable, we can give permission for those around us in our household, on our teams. And I think that that's going to make everyone, feel more connected and human. So I think that that's the first thing. And a lot of emotions, actually, what we want to do is that we want to kind of allow ourselves to feel them and then kind of move them through our body, right? And that's like what we're built for in terms of knowing how to handle stress. So let me give you a couple of things then that you can kind of do to get out of that fear moment. So one thing is to kind of reframe it, right? As that this is, I'm feeling vulnerable, and try to get a sense of like, okay, what am I feeling vulnerable about? And then, kind of going to this, is like, can I change my physiology? Can I change the way that I'm thinking about it? Is there anything that I can do that's problem solving that will help me to not feel so vulnerable, right? Can I share this with someone who I trust? So that, I think, is something that we can do. Another thing that we can do is that we want to try to calm our nervous system, because that's where the fear comes from. Okay, so I'm gonna take a moment and if you'll allow me to kind of wonk out for a minute or two, give you kind of a framework, and then we're going to do a breathing technique to calm us. Okay. So I want to. Oh yeah, this is just a reminder to say that it's not about stress management. It's about self-management. It's about controlling ourselves. Okay, so just trying to move this along. So this is really very important. And for all of you, I want this to be like one of your biggest takeaways, because this is very relevant for you personally in terms of dealing with fear. It's very, very relevant for you on your teams in the workplace. So it's our nervous system that enables us to deal with stress, the relentless demand and all the change. Now, our nervous system has two parts to it. We have an on button, which gives us focus and energy to solve problems and run from meeting to meeting. We have an off button, which gives us access to calm and rejuvenation. Now, even before this crisis, we were living always on, only on. We were totally not balanced anyway. And now we're all heightened. So here's what I want you to appreciate, is that when we're in this kind of pushing all day long, listening to the news, worrying about people all day long, it's only exercising that on button mode of thinking and of going through our day. Now, in the on button mode, there's certain thinking and feeling that is associated with it. First of all, we tend to focus on things that are right in front of us, like the new numbers of people, who are infected. We tend to, or the new announcement that just came from our communications people, and or just the work that we have to do, which is a lot, and while I'm homeschooling 3 children, and so we tend to focus on sort of like all the things that are right in front of me, and everything feels like a priority. And so there's a few things that you want to know about this mode of thinking. You're not able to make distinctions, so everything feels like a priority. It's hard to know like what's more important, what's less important. You literally are only able to reference the past to know how to solve problems. You're not able to have new thoughts or innovate. Listen up, folks, right? For those of you who want to like create the future in your companies and need this for your business. And everything gets filtered through the part of your brain that is the fear center. And so every piece of information gets filtered with the question, and what does this mean about me?
Right.
So it keeps us in fear. Now we need our on button. That's what you do, all your tactics and all your tasks. What's to enable you to have the success that you've had to date. But if you're only using that on button, you could see where all your thoughts are, right? Yes. You need to balance it with the off button, okay? The off button is your genius button. It gives you access to see the big picture, to tap your creativity, your intuition, to think objectively, to discern what's fact, what's fiction, what's important, what's less, to think for the future, to be strategic. You got it? So that's what you really need to do to get out of fear, is you need to balance your on button with your off button. And so one thing that I'd like to do is I'd actually like to, would everyone be up for demonstrating a breathing technique that will help you to balance your on and your off button? Would you be open for that?
Yes, we're here.
You want to get a sense from people? So if we do this for 2 minutes or so, is everyone in for that? Because you're really going to feel really calm at the end of it. Are you up for it, Sheila?
Yes, let's do it.
Okay, fantastic. So one thing that you could do, I call this the mental reset, okay? And then we'll do something specifically for the panic moments. But this is really good to just keep your system steady. So it's going to like just prevent you, it will calm your mind and prevent you from getting into that kind of hijacked situation. This is a really good practice for you to do daily, and I would teach it to your family members and team members. Okay, now, so this is a 3-part breath. It's a mental reset. You're going to inhale through your nose. You're going to hold, and you're going to exhale. You're going to inhale, you're going to hold, you're going to exhale. You good with that? Now, anybody who wants to sort of get an enhanced effect, you can put your hands in this position. It balances the left and the right hemispheres, and just keep all that good calm energy inside of you. So I'm going to count it out for you. Close your eyes if you feel comfortable. Don't if you don't. And any questions? So let's begin. Inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale from your belly and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5, and hold. 2, 3, 4, 5, and exhale all the way out. And inhale, and hold, And exhale all the way out. And inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. And hold, 2, 3, 4, 5. And exhale all the way out. And as it feels comfortable for you, kind of come back into, like come join us again on the webinar. And Sheila, let me hear from you. Those who are on the line, let me hear from you. How do you feel now?
I do feel very relaxed. I feel very relaxed. What is the science behind that? What is that doing to our bodies when we do that?
Fantastic. So let's hear. And Sheila, tell me as we're hearing in the chat, because I can't see it. So when you inhale, you are strengthening your kind of endocrine and emotional systems. When you hold, you're strengthening your cardiovascular system. When you exhale, you're strengthening your nervous system and you're calming your anxiety. So what this breath does is that it balances that on button with your off button so that you could see now you have a little bit more access maybe to that kind of bigger picture thinking, more of that creativity. It calms the mind. And now don't you feel ready? Like, yeah, if I have to write something now, like I could do that. My mind's clear.
And it's 2 minutes. And Lisa says she's relaxed. Lydia said that was lovely. Emanuela says definitely yes. And someone is asking, will they be able to get these slides afterwards, or could you modify slides that the participants can get?
Yeah, I'll give you a link that to get them at the end. And also, I have what's very important now, Sheila. The reason that I demonstrated this and I didn't just say, okay, here's a tool, so go and use it, because I know you. None of you would use it. You'd be like, yeah. That's why I demonstrated it.
We don't have time. That's exactly what we say. We don't have time. But because you forced us to do that, 3 minutes. 2 minutes. I am so relaxed.
Want you to see how far you can travel. So again, it's a self-management toolkit, right? And you could do this with your family. You could start team meetings with this. People are going to be so much more grounded.
For homeschool. Thank you, Emily. Emily said this is amazing. Sheila and Sharon, perfect timing. What she needed.
Okay, fantastic. Now,
so keep us on time. On time. It's 12:37, and we want the goodness that you have. We want it all, Sharon. Bring it on.
Okay, and let me just say, so that you'll continue to do this, I actually have like a brief audio of 3 minutes, and I'm just counting it out for you in just the way that I did it. So what we'll do is maybe I'll give you a link at the end, and then we'll put the slides and that audio on there so that everyone can get it. And in fact, if you just want to put it up in the chat, it's just successunderstressbook.com, successunderstressbook.com. We were going to give them more details about Be Impeccable for your 50%, but we'll put all the rest on there right after this. All okay, right. So you want to talk about your team? Want to talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, good. So everyone
members optimistic, even for the unknown future. How do we motivate and inspire our team and keep them uplifted, productive, and effective?
Fantastic. Okay, so as we were talking about, as the leader, you create the weather on your team. And as a parent, you're creating the weather in your household. And as a partner, you're creating the weather in your relationship, right? And
is it raining? Is it stormy? I like that. We create.
Yeah, totally. And so it's really important how you show up. Now, what the research tells us is that the best tone to strike in these times is one of realistic optimism. Realistic optimism. Now, I know a lot of you as leaders of teams and of families and communities, so, you might be thinking like, well, how do I, like what's the right tone to kind of talk to them in? I mean, should I, if you're falsely reassuring at this point, you lose credibility. So you don't want to do that, right? But if you don't really know what to say, I think leaders are, trying to figure this out. So realistic optimism. Now, why is this helpful? Because optimism creates a positive picture in your mind that you transfer, right, with your vision to that of your team members. And that positive picture is important because it helps people to feel like there's something that they could do, that your own efforts, right, or things that you think of could help to create the success that you want, could help you to adapt along the way. So it's very motivating for people. And the positive mood state that it activates actually helps with problem solving. So it will actually help people to come up with new ideas and to be effective. And what we even know is that optimism actually supports a healthy immune system. Okay, so you might be thinking to yourself as a leader, like, okay, yes, I'm in, I want to be doing that, but like, how do I find optimism, in these times? So, here's a few things to get you started, right? So one is you might want to like reflect on your own life and think about difficulties that you've been through and how you were resilient, how optimism served you, or how you thought about it, or that of your role models. And I think as a leader, that would be so bonding with your team, is to kind of share out loud, your own process or kind of what worked for you. And I think that will really like just make you human and make your team feel like, wow, I'm getting to know you. And that's really helpful as a role model for me. So that's something that you could do. You could also, like, if there's any metrics or any data or anything that you could like are learning that could be helpful for you, I would definitely share that out loud. Like, what are you pointing to? Where is there a piece of the business that's still, going strong that we could now, double down our efforts on, or something, like that. You could even have like a team meeting about like, cultivating a growth mindset in your people. Like, let's do a like bring your best idea to stay in customers team meeting today, stay in touch with customers team meeting, theme today, or whatever, something like that. Or bring your best story of optimism to our team meeting today. I mean, you could cultivate this. And then finally, I think this is a time for us to go deep. Like, what are your beliefs about why things happen? What are your beliefs that enable you to stay connected to your faith, to your spiritual beliefs, to wherever you derive your sense of purpose? And I think that this is a time for you to visit with and go deep with. And where do you find it in yourself, right? In these times, or have found it. And I think that could help you to stay connected, right? To kind of tethered to a bigger picture and a bigger purpose. And, I've been definitely listening to people in my life who are kind of spiritual guides, spiritual thinkers, and they are helping me to try to see beyond the current moment and to see kind of a bigger arc of history that might be at play here, of more of an evolution where it was an unsustainable culture that we were living in, and how can we move towards, like, how can we be moving towards maybe more of a world that we want to live in? And that's why it's so important for each and every one of us to be that leader, creating the weather in our families and in our teams. And that's why it's so important, because every woman who stays in her power, right, and is impeccable for her 50%, when you are in your power, you raise everyone around you.
Mm-hmm. And also, I do want to say that I think we have some male allies on here as well. So
fantastic. Thank you. We want to be working together with you. So all the things I'm talking about here are universal. If you're human, they are relevant for you, of course, and we're all on mixed gender teams. And so we want to be working together, right, to be creating the future. And that is the opportunity that I think that we have here. And all of these tools, teach them to all of your family members and all of your team members.
So I don't know if you're working in any kind of order or anything, but what you just gave us was, how we create the weather and stay positive, anything. What about reducing the distractions around us to keep us, focused and everything? I have reduced distractions and create boundaries of space while we're working from home. And that can be difficult.
Yeah. Yeah, this is universal right now. We're all in it, right? And so there's a few things that I'll say about that. So I think this is a time for extreme sport intentionality.
Okay.
As well as time for extreme sport compassion, right? Because the longer this goes on, there's a lot of opportunity for all of us to get on each other's nerves, right? Anybody that you are sheltering in place with. And nerves are gonna get frayed, and I think it's very important that we are intentional. So, one of the exercises that I have in the book, in addition to a whole suite of breathing techniques and all these mindsets that we're talking about, is I think it would be helpful to have a discussion on your team or in your household of on your team, how we would apply this is that we have an opportunity for reset. Now we can create the culture that we want. We can create the working practices, how we work together. In your household, you can create who's using what part of the space at what time, just as an example, or what your schedules are. And so a great exercise to do is what I call the ideal day exercise. Let me see if I can, I think I have this here. The ideal day exercise. And so what this is that it's a facilitated exercise. And, so if this were in your home, you might be having this with whoever you are sheltering in place with, right? How do we want to go through this? What would an ideal day look like? What do each of us need? Maybe mommy needs to be on calls at certain times. Daddy maybe, needs this. Maybe my partner needs this. Maybe my kids need this or whatever. And I would add structure. I would try to make schedules, for the days. I've seen lots of signs of sort of, mommy or daddy on a call, sign on the, the door or the desk area or whatever. But start with the end in mind. Be intentional. Have this, what would an ideal day look like for each of us, right? And you get a collective input. And then, okay, now we have a collective vision. Let's reverse engineer that. What does everybody need in the service of that, right? So, you might need certain times of the day where you need, I know, families where there's one counter with a good background, so you need certain times to be on the Zoom calls, you know what I mean? And then we can switch, and then someone's in the bedroom doing stuff where you don't need, a background or whatever. So that's one thing, but the point is to have this discussion, right? And then each person is able to say, here's the time that I need, here's the boundary that I need, or, I've been giving virtual trainings for teams, a lot in the past week. And, one of the things that I'm hearing a leader at one of the big media companies, said, I need my afternoon walk. And so I carve out 30 minutes, and even though our clients need us and it's very reactive. And so we just put a script in place for how she educates everyone around her, you know what I mean? That she needs that time. And so that she can have kind of what it is that she needs. And when you have this discussion, the ideal day exercise, and this is good not only in a crisis. I mean, I've facilitated dozens and dozens of these, and I'll tell you, everybody wants the same thing. We all want to accomplish the most meaningful work, you know what I mean, and feel accomplished at the end of the day. We all want to feel valued and reduce interruptions. And so this is where you can talk together about and once you have a discussion, once you have that collective vision, it's really helpful for the team leader, because then the team leader can keep referencing, is that in the service of our, what would be in the service of our ideal day, as opposed to having to be the heavy or saying you know what I mean? you know, that's not working, or don't do that. It's just, you know, is that in the service of our ideal day? What did we, you know, talk about again? And it's sort of always putting it like the aspiration is a collective vision. And then when everyone is impeccable for their 50%, when everyone agrees on that, then everyone has skin in the game, because everyone's sort of saying like, well, if we all want this, so let's all play our part, right? So it can be very helpful to have a cohesive culture, and then, you know, you just kind of problem solve, and you know, I'm available between these times, or not available between these times, right? You know, you can also start to even be more intentional about like, what are the interruptions or the distractions that really you want to allow in or welcome in? Like, there's certain things your kids are going to come to you with where it's like, yes, you know what I mean? They're not feeling well or whatever, you know, or your doctor is calling or something. Like, yes, that's an interruption you want to take. So I would have like a short list of criteria of, you know, and everyone in the household has this, of like things that are worth like interrupting, that I need to handle that. That's as much a priority as anything. And then other things you can start to problem solve away, right? Any interruption that you're getting that is happening more than once or twice or three times, you could predict that, you could anticipate that. And then like, how do we need to problem solve that? How do I need to set my child up, you know what I mean? So that they are, and there's fantastic resources. I just was on this Facebook group yesterday. I forget what it's called. I'll get you the link. It's like lockdown tips and ideas or something like that. There's like over 1 million families on that already in the last few days. And it's just a stream of like super helpful things to keep kids, you know, occupied and engaged, all like really healthy, constructive, you know, kinds of things. So it's like, be impeccable for your 50%, like know what you need, you know what I mean? Communicate with people about it, access resources, have an ideal day discussion with your team.
I think that's great to create the weather. I love how you said we create the weather with our families and creating the ideal day and how that's going to work. So we have less than 10 minutes left, and I'm paying attention to the questions, but we also only have 2 things on the flyer left. And I think that we can get them all done, because the one thing we want to make sure everyone leaves with on this call is, how do we continue to show our value and stay visible even in the workplace? You've shown us how we can work with our teams and our families and, you know, stop the distractions. So how do we keep ourselves visible and valuable in the workplace? And then you got to close with how we turn our head off at night and get some sleep and relax.
Yeah. Okay. So this is so important, Sheila, and we share a mission about this, right? Because we share a mission for helping women to advance and to fully express their talents, and for all talent to express their talents. So I've definitely been hearing this. You know, I run these virtual coaching programs that are helping women to get promoted, and you know, we're putting a lot of emphasis as well. I think we share a mission, especially around helping women of color to be valued and get into leadership. So I've definitely been talking with my participants about this very topic. How do you do this in a virtual world, right? So the first thing is that you know, each of you just really wants to be thinking about like staying close to the business and what is value add right now, right? And, you know, I'll tell you some of the things that I'm hearing, and I wonder if this is relevant for any of you. I'm hearing that sometimes there's projects that you've been working on that are like important for your visibility that have been stalled, right? Or maybe you've been redeployed, and maybe it's a job that like just, you know, isn't getting, you know, doesn't leverage your best talents, or it's boring, or it's like not a part of the business that you wanted to be in, something like that. I've even heard that there are turf wars, and that bosses are taking credit for work that you've been doing because everyone's kind of in a scramble right now. So I think this question is really, really important. And so I want to encourage everyone that just because we are in a virtual workplace right now, to not let that discourage you, and not let that have you like get a mindset that's sort of like, oh, I don't want to bother them, or they don't want to hear from me, right? Rather, the way that I think that you want to be thinking about this is that now's the time for you to be stepping up, right? So, I've been talking with my clients about like, how could they be value add now? What are the things that that the organization maybe has been wanting to do or needing to do, but everyone was so crazed and overwhelmed that we never had time to do it. I've been talking with my clients about like, what are now like the important initiatives of the leaders, and how can you like, what do you know about that? Like we just had someone on the call yesterday who there's an important initiative that the chairman of her company now is, this has become really important. And last week, she said to me, well, they're asking all these SVPs to, sort of run this cultural initiative. And she's, more mid-level in the organization. And she's like, well, how can I, like get my voice heard or whatever? And so we, really dug in. We like put together a whole plan for her to be visible to her manager, so that her manager would ask if she could have input into the way that they were thinking about, this initiative. And then, we had her kind of write up some thoughts about what her, what she thought would be value add to this initiative. And then she was able to get these thoughts on commenting on a rough draft that was being sent around. And just yesterday, so just a week later, she said she was on the call with the, on the call, and she said that the CEO called her out specifically saying, thank you, for these like recommendations, and is tapping her to be kind of like the project manager of this culture. So you can do it in these times. And if she had just, so she, last week was in the mindset of sort of like, well, who am I? And they're tapping these senior leaders, but you know what I mean? Instead, she got out of that kind of small game thinking, and she didn't make it about her, right? And then, she put her thoughts on paper, really organized, got it in front of the right people. And now she's a central player in this like high visibility initiative. So I want all of you to be thinking about, how can you be positioning yourself? What is value add right now? Where are resources flowing in your organization? What do you know, right? It's all about positioning, and it's all about messaging, and it's all about stepping up, I think, with no ego at this point, or not from ego, but from a sense of contribution and a sense of value. And reaching out, I think there's a lot of receptivity on the part of senior leaders now, if you are reaching out to them about how you can help or value that you can bring. And, we might even think about doing a deeper coaching on this, Sheila, because there's a lot of specific strategies, but awesome.
I think it's the perfect time to figure out what you have to work with. How can you make your boss's job easier? Because that's what people are looking for, contributions to add value to keeping the organization afloat with what we have to work with. And so we're going to have to close, but you got to tell us, how do we turn our head off at night so we can relax and sleep through the night? And please tell the listeners that you will be able to provide, we'll have something for everyone that's on this call that they'll be able to utilize. We'll have Crystal on my team, make sure we get it to them.
Yeah, so and you can see the link here, Success Under Stress book. That was going to give you more about the how to control what you can control, but we'll put on there the resources of the slides and the, counting out the breath for you. So definitely the more that you balance your on and your off button, do that breathing, that will help you to actually be more relaxed before you go to sleep. Okay, drum roll, please, the moment that you've been waiting for. So when you wake up at 2 a.m. with your thoughts racing about your to-do list, it is a sign of an overactive on button. That's what's going on. All you have to do, press the off button. So on page 68 of the book, Success Under Stress, left nostril breathing. You cover your right nostril. You breathe exclusively through your left nostril. It activates the vagal nerve, the chief nerve of the relaxation system. Within 3 minutes or so, you should be able to get back to sleep. No external substances required. So, and it's very important that you do this correctly, that you not kind of do the wrong nostril, because if so, you just like get up and come to work. You will, it activates your brain. You will never come back to sleep. So no fear. It's on page 68 of Success Under Stress. We'll get you the slides. And there's so much you can't control. Be impeccable for your 50%.
Thank you, Dr. Melnick, and thank you all for joining us. Please mark your calendars to have lunch with us next Thursday at 12 noon. We're going to have Dr. Michelle Robin talk with us on wellness, and we now that we're going to have our stress underway, because we cannot stay well and cannot eat properly when we're stressed. So we have addressed our stress. And next week, we'll talk about wellness, and you're going to get a printout, a big free printout on wellness tips during this time. I look forward to you all joining us at Moving Forward, where we are your leadership connection during these times. Thank you so very much. And thank you, Dr. Sharon. I look forward to talking with you offline.
I treasure you, Sheila. Thank you.
All right, you as well. Bye-bye.